Hello, everybody. So good to see your beautiful faces here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. This is one of those things. I love everything I do. I love all the classes that I offer in the Awareness Academy, all the gatherings, all the guest teachers. I love all of it. But when I do these transmissions, there is just something magical that happens. I just feel it in me because I know I'm just being a vessel. So it is as if I get supercharged on Wednesdays through this experience. So thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. Um, and thank you all so much for coming to yesterday's guest teacher. That was just so lovely and lining up more things. And by all means, let me know things that you want to hear about or topics you may want to have discussed. And uh, Janie, I've got a contact for somebody who's going to come and do a class on crypto. So a very basic class, and that's going to be really exciting because this world is shifting. And actually, today, that's the main thing that keeps coming through me. I have had two or three, one, two, three um, people that I have coached in the past, and they're reaching out again, and it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Their egos got all spiritualized. They know all the stuff about A Course in Miracles, and they didn't need any more, time with A Course. They have it figured out. And now they're experiencing some turbulence in their lives and they're feeling like they're on shaky ground. So I've had three of these phone calls. And of course, I just invite them into the Awareness Academy. That's the only place where I can really help people in a way that is affordable, whether it's, whatever of the three levels people want to get financially committed to is okay. But there's something going on all the time. And I am just so committed to helping people have access to what I keep hearing. I keep hearing this from you guys, and I keep hearing it from other people that watch my videos, comments that you make A Course in Miracles so much easier to understand. I can now apply it because of the way you share it. And I know that it is my life's purpose. When I was told to um, share, to teach the power of awareness, and I was given that information, I knew, my gosh, this is so simple. This is such a simple way to look at things. We're dividing everything into love and fear. There is nothing else. There's only love and fear. Let me get one of my charts to show how simple this is. Oh, I have so many charts. Oh, where's my chart? Well, sorry, guys. I put the charts in a had that chart in a spot that I had to dig it out. But everything can be put into two columns. Eh, Love and fear, that is it. We're either listening to the voice for God or we're listening to the voice for the ego. There are no other voices. That is it. Now, for a while, the ego sounds like it could be 14 voices. I mean, you could think that you're Sybil with, yeah, I don't know how many voices Sybil had. So the ego is very tricky. It can appear to be the voice of mother, the voice of father, the voice of the church, the voice of the government, the voice of your previous, lover. It can be the voice of alcohol, it can be the voice of drugs, it can be the voice of shopping. The ego is very tricky and it will speak in lots of different ways. But the voice for God is very consistent. It is a very loving voice. It is very grounded, very centered, very clear, very certain of what it is saying. You feel that certainty. But while you're learning to listen to this voice, which is part of what David was sharing with us yesterday, you have to contend with all of these other voices, with the craziness of all of the different ways the voice of the ego can show up. And my purpose, when I was given the power of awareness to teach, and I was given instructions that I was going to leave my career as a realtor, quite successful career that I've been building for years, and I loved being a realtor, and it was so lucrative, and I was going to open up a center for awareness, doing something I'd never done before. And it was like, okay, I'm going to step out of this known and I'm going to step into an unknown. And that was 20 plus years ago, and it has changed my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I keep getting this message: this is the time that I have been preparing for. We are right here. And I'm just feeling these sweet people who are calling me saying, Line, I fell off the spiritual wagon. I've got to get back on. I need some help. And there are so many that have spiritual awareness, and it's at the level of the head. And at the level of the head, it's wonderful. You've got more information. Whoopee! Your head has been filled with more stuff. At least it's higher frequency information, but it is not going to ground you. Not until you commit to listening to the voice for God. Until we make that commitment that no matter what, I am only going to listen to the voice, and it's going to be a very quiet voice in the beginning. And it's quiet because it's been talking to us for so long, we've not been listening, that it's barely a whisper because all these other voices have gotten so loud. The voice of the responsibility, and I got to pay the bills, and I got to go to get a job, and I got to get, I got to get invited to the party. I got to be part of the who's who. Those voices are so loud that it takes an incredible amount of commitment, not only the willingness, but a commitment to get clear about which voice are you listening to. And when I was given the power of awareness to share, I was blown away the day that I got it. I got it. I had already been teaching this work. I'd already opened the center. I was teaching the workshops. Once a month, I hosted the Power of Awareness retreat. 4 days, people came in. We immersed ourselves in these teachings, and it was probably a good, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 times of teaching that I got it. And I was there in my center in front of my big board where I used to teach and write all this out every single time. Now I've got it printed. But I would write it out. And one day I stood in front of that and I realized it was as simple. I was standing in front of my board. I'll give you a visual. I was standing in front, love and fear. And I realized it's as simple as choosing this or this. I'm going to listen to the ego or I'm going to listen to God. That was it. I had to just make a choice, a very simple choice. Now, as you were saying, Kathy, I've been saying the same thing forever. It was not easy in the beginning. It is not easy choosing to override the voice that you thought was right all the time. It is not easy because it requires an incredible amount of courage. Look where courage is. Courage is a very high frequency. When we're operating in fear, we don't have courage. That's what fear is a lack of courage to stand for the truth. Fear is, I've gotten so far away from the truth that I don't even, I don't know what to do. This is why it's not easy, because you don't think you have the courage. And before you get the courage, you've got to gain the pride. Pride is here, courage is there. Pride means you have to come to the place where you believe that you deserve something better, that you deserve something lasting. The ego's trained us into that false pride. I deserve something better. I deserve a new outfit. I deserve a new drink. I deserve I deserve a new car. I deserve a new promotion. I deserve a new, partner. That is what the ego is always looking for, is always looking for something out there, for that temporary high. Ego is an addiction. It keeps us in a state of always looking for something to make us feel better, to take us up a notch. That is what the ego is. It's this insatiable, hungry little monster inside of us that is always looking for love and peace and joy in all the wrong places. But until we decide to believe that we deserve better, believe that we deserve something that is not just a temporary hit, that I am worthy as a child of God to have everlasting peace, everlasting love, everlasting joy. Until we decide that we deserve that, we are not going to gain the courage because pride comes before courage. Those who are courageous because they know they deserve whatever it is that they are standing for, fighting for, however you want to see it. Courage means that you have come back to loving you the way God loves you. Pride says, I deserve to have what God said it gave me. Courage, the word courage comes from the word cœur in French. It's heart. So you have to have a level of love to have courage. You have to. Your heart has to have opened up at some level for you to believe that you deserve the love of God. And here's what comes with the love of God. Everything you've ever wanted, the peace, the joy, the certainty, the clarity, the abundance, everything you could possibly want comes when you accept that God said you were made of love, for love, to extend love, to be loved, to experience love, all of those things. We've been looking for love in all the wrong places because we look outside of ourselves. And love is going to be, real love is only going to be found in one place. You got to come inside. And to experience that level of love, it is not easy to train your mind into realizing that you're not going to find it in the bottle, that you're not going to find it in the job. You're not going to find it in approval from the outside. When you have spent decades believing that that's where you get your joy, your happiness, and your safety and your peace, it is not easy to come into where love actually is because we have spent so much time training ourselves into that it is believing that it is out there. And yet this is why I love that Einstein quote. We keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result because the ego keeps us on the chase, chasing, chasing, chasing. And those temporary hits are sufficient for the ego to get a high. But guess what? Because the ego is like a pendulum swinging. You're going to get your high and then you're going to drop and you're going to get your low. It's going to be good one moment and then it's not going to be so good the next. So then what do? We don't learn from that. Looking, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. We don't learn from that until we decide that we're worth something different. That decision, that it is that simple. That simple. I deserve something better. Now, a lot of us do that all the time. But we are operating with the ego. That's why these three people that I've just talked to, it's the same thing. You deserve it, but do you do it consistently? Do you stick with it? Well, it's kind of inconvenient to do that meditation for 30 minutes. Well, the kids were blah, blah, blah. I just didn't have the quiet this morning. Well, I'm getting ready to go on vacation. I'm remodeling the house. Oh, I've got some friends coming over. When's the last time you opened up your Course in Miracles book? Oh, I didn't even know where I put it. That was about 3 months ago. Yeah, it's about 3 months ago. Okay, and you're wondering why there's a little uncertainty in your life? You're not grounded with these teachings. I've been teaching this stuff for a long time. I've been a teacher of spiritual principles for about 20 years. That's when I got the tap on the shoulder. This is what you're going to do, and I went off and did it. I've been teaching from the course because I've been a student of the course. I've been a student of the course since 2011, and I've been teaching it probably since 2014. So 11 years teaching it. I study the course every single day. Now, let me just say, there's probably been a day or two that I didn't. I know when I went with my daughter, we went for a couple of days to the hot springs for her birthday. I didn't take anything with me. I was with her, my grandkids, her husband. I knew there was going to be not a whole lot of time, but I did not spend time in connection with God because when I was laying there in the hot springs and I'm enjoying this beautiful view, all I'm doing is thanking God that I know that none of this is real. I'm enjoying this, but it is not real. This is not my reality. I'm projecting all of this. I'm projecting this beautiful scenery. I operate, if you could be in my head, it's a little crazy in there sometimes, but it's always recognizing none of this is real. Now, it's not real as in REAL, but it is real, REEL. It's a reel that I'm projecting, no different than a movie reel. So, how do I want to experience this? I'm the producer of this. I've been given the ability to put out there what it is that I want to experience because I know that from within here, I was created to create. I was created to have experiences. So, my life, my world is lovely, absolutely lovely. And there's lots of people in this in my life experience that have a lot of trauma, a lot of drama. It doesn't affect me. I can sit there and listen to them and hear what they're going through, knowing you're the creator of your real, REEL. And it is very real to you, REAL, because you don't know that it's a movie reel. You think it is reality, but it is not. The only reality is that God created us to create. Course in Miracles is really clear. When you come to the place that you take pride in accepting what God gave you, when you accept not only who you are, but you accept your purpose and you stop arguing with your purpose. That's what we are looking in lesson 186. Salvation of the world depends on me. That's part of our purpose. Our purpose is to be happy. Our purpose is to recognize the truth of who we are, to see that in our brothers and sisters who have long forgotten. And then what do? Well, then salvation of the world depends on me because once I save myself, I spare myself all this suffering and I recognize that this is not real. It's a real, but it's not real. So you've got to understand all of these nuances about the way that the world operates, the way that projection operates. Once you are clear about that and you're grounded, okay, who is in charge here? Well, you've got to take 100% responsibility that your experience is 100% on you. Now that's scary, very scary to somebody new on this journey. Somebody who's in victim mode, somebody who's projecting out there, blaming. I did this because they made me do it. It's their fault. Well, until you do the therapeutical work that is necessary to address that, that this is part of understanding something that was given to us by Maslow. He gave us a hierarchy of needs. He gave us very distinct levels. I've got a chart, but I'm not going to look for that. Very distinct levels of needs that have to be satisfied. If your basic needs are not met, if you're unstable, what the new word insecurity, if you have housing insecurity or food insecurity or whatever medical insecurity, you are too unstable to really take the time to want to take responsibility for what's happening. You're in survival mode. You start moving up those levels of needs, meaning needs are being met, and you're moving to a place where you now have the space the time and the finances or whatever you need to start cultivating time for self-awareness to come within. Things can be really rocky, but everybody has to start somewhere. We usually start at the very bottom. And that's when we begin to cultivate a relationship with the voice of love, with the voice of God. And you don't need money. You don't need to have abundance and all kinds of things and everything already figured out to start that relationship. But oftentimes, especially in the West, we have been trained that until we get all the bills paid and until everything is taken care of, maybe until we retire, we don't have time for spirituality. Yeah, we'll go to church on Sunday, maybe Wednesday, if we're into that, or maybe we only go on Christmas Day. Whatever it is, we have put spirituality at the very back of the bus. It's usually the last thing that we will go to. One of the things that I'm super excited to see out of the tragedy of the death of Charlie Kirk is how many young people are going into spirituality. Yes, the majority of them are going into Christianity and they're going into the Bible. That's okay. God is in the Bible. Now, not everything about the Bible, for me, is the true message of God because I understand the way that the Bible was corrupted. Specifically, my research into the New Testament, it was all designed to control people. Why? Because when you connect with God directly, like Jesus taught us, then you don't need the government. So, how does the government get you to need the government? Well, it scares the shit out of you. So, it tells you all of these things that if you're not good, you're not this, you don't pay your taxes, you don't pay your tithing, you're going to go to hell. I know. I lived inside of that fear. It was facing that fear that then brought me to the realization that the only reason I was in fear is because I didn't have faith. So, now, I didn't find my faith in the Bible. My faith came through the encounters that I began to have with Jesus and the experiences that I began to have that led me more on a spiritual path, not a religious path. But even through a religious path, everybody today, everybody that is on this planet is being activated with frequencies that are creating a level of curiosity, a state of wonder that is saying, I can smell that I can sense, I can feel that there is a lot of lies in this world. But I have this keen sense that there's truth in here somewhere. Somewhere there is truth. And whether you find it through the Bible or you find it through A Course in Miracles or you find it through Buddhism or you find it through Islam, it doesn't matter. We are going to be met wherever we are, that we start the journey of saying, there has to be another way. The Course in Miracles, in the introduction, it tells us that it is a required course, but it does not tell us that this is the only way to experience that course. The required course is a willingness to find God. And for many of us, God has been hidden under a lot of dogma. God has been hidden under a lot of lies. We have to sniff that out. There is something inside of us that will help us recognize what is true and what is not true, what is loving and what is fear-based. Today, humanity is at the beginning of the end of this journey. If you follow some of the teachings of Cryon, or I mean, there are just so many teachers that have been channeling this information. We are in a 26,000 year cycle. We're at the end of that 26,000 year, and you can think of these spirals as 26,000 years. We are at the completion of one of those spirals where we get to decide, am I going to ground myself in what is true and loving? Or do I want to continue on this merry-go-round that goes nowhere, but it's pretty exciting. It's a lot of fun. Playing the 3D game is very thrilling. Look at all the things you get to do. You get to have jobs, you get to switch jobs, you get to have money, you get to be poor, you get to be rich, you get to be drunk, you get to be sober. So many things. You can do so many things. You can be male, female. Heck, you can be both if you want to now. So we have to understand that there are so many opportunities in this 3D game. Very thrilling, very enticing. Because when the ego makes a decision that I am no longer under in alignment with God's teachings, and I decide, well, I'm going to be my own God, I'm going to walk away from God. Maybe God won't notice. I'm just going to sneak over here and create this 3D world, and we're going to do all kinds of crazy things and fun things and exciting things. I can jump out of airplanes. I can jump into the ocean. I can dive deep. I can swim with dolphins, with sharks, with whales, with whatever the heck I want to swim with. All of that is possible in the 3D world. But here's the thing. In that 3D world, you have to make a decision to block love, to block God. That is the ticket to get into that game. If you are still wanting to play in that exciting level of in that adventure park, by all means, if you internally remain in a state of fear, of anxiety, of unworthiness, that's your ticket. You're in. You're in. You don't have to worry about a thing. If you can say, been there, done that. It's boring to operate from fear. It's boring to chase things that are not lasting. For me, it is. For me, it's like I look at it and go, there is nothing here that I really want in the 3D realm. What I prefer is to have the experience of separation, to be awake in the dream, to know that I'm experiencing separation, from one another, but not from God. So when I made that decision, I want to experience what it's like to be Laina, but I want to experience it awake in the dream. This is what the Course in Miracles is all about, to teach us how to have a happy dream. A happy dream is I get my guidance from God, not from the ego. I already listened to it. I've probably been here 26,000 years doing the same shit, getting, the same result. I am tired of that because it's boring. That's all that it is. There's no judgment. I'm happy for anybody who wants to do that. I really like how the last probably 10 years of my life, I've been on this journey for about 25 years. The first 15 years were hell. It was difficult. It was not easy. It was so my whole life was falling apart. Everything that I read had me realize, oh my gosh, I've been living a lie. Oh, I've lived a lie here. This was a lie. This was a lie. Religion was a lie. The medical establishment was a lie. Politics was a lie. Government, education, all that was a lie. My whole life was just busting open. Everything I was realizing was a lie. I was in terror for many of those years, going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Every single time it was, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to go deeper into God. I'm going to go deeper into the truth. I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to get out of this insanity. And I knew I could get out of this insanity because God told me that I could. Jesus made it very clear. You are the creator of your reality. When I decided I'm done with this reality of pretending, I want what allows me to be real, REAL. And for me to experience what it is real, I needed to see that I was inside of a real, REEL. This was all a projection. I needed to start acting like an actress. And I always wanted to be an actress when I was younger, but I never had those skills. And then I realized, wait a second, I've been an actress my whole life. I've been pretending I'm not the child of God. So damn, I deserve an Oscar. And then I decided, okay, then I'm going to take this acting thing seriously. I am going to act like I am Laina, a separate human here on this planet, but I am going to get my directions from God. God is the director of this experience that I'm having. Sure, I'm the producer of my own film, but I'm getting direct guidance from God. And it's always so simple. Love. Jesus told us 2,000 years ago, love your neighbor as yourself. 2,000 years ago. 24,000 years before that, because 24 plus 2, 26,000 years of insanity. I'm done with that. So here we are in lesson 186. Salvation of the world depends on me. Yes, I know we've already talked about this. This feels like a very heavy thing to hold, to have to carry. The whole salvation of the world depends on me. Yes, if you're the producer of it, if you're the director of this movie and you're the one doing the film, yes, you are the one who is going to either condemn the world, which is what we do with the ego, or you are going to save the world, meaning you're going to spare it from needing to make you happy. And that's the important thing to understand about this lesson. It is that once you decide to be the change you want to see in the world, the rest of the world is spared from you judging them, you blaming them, you expecting them to make you happy. You basically take them off the hook because you take full responsibility for what you want to experience. And again, this is what makes it not so easy to do because you're changing all of the way you looked at things. It was not easy to change my mind about my mom wasn't in charge of my happiness. My husband wasn't in charge of my happiness. It was really hard to change that. It's a lot of discomfort accepting the fact that my happiness came from me. Because I had to take responsibility for all my thoughts. Every single thought that I have, I needed to assess. Is it love? Is it fear? And probably 95% of them were fear-based. Yes, there were lots of lovely things. When I was in my garden, when I was with my puppy, it was so pure and so loving and so innocent and so joyful. Yeah, ooh, I've got some real stuff. I know how to do this. But the rest of the time, everything was based on fear. So, lesson 186 is an invitation to really step it up. Take full responsibility. The salvation of the world depends on you. You need to find God within, and you need to see God in everybody else, even when they're doing things you don't like. And guess what we've been preparing for? Why do you think this whole, craziness with politics that, especially here in the US, and actually it's everywhere, has been so wild for the past, since 2016? And of course, that started before that. 2014 is when I believe Trump said he was going to run for office, or 2015. So 10 years of absolute craziness in politics. Well, guess what all that is? Simple opportunities for you to decide, are you looking at it from love or fear? Is your reality, REAL, crumbling? Well, if it's crumbling, it's for you to see that you're the one who's creating the real REEL. How do you want to see this movie? I made a decision that I'm seeing everything happening for the greater good. So I can only see the good that is happening. Even when the candidate that was in office wasn't the one that I voted for, I still saw, oh, this is serving a greater good. So I didn't have an issue with whoever was in my candidate because I trusted the process that all of it was working for the greater good. But man, the people who don't get their candidate, they're in terror. And they're in terror because they don't trust, and they don't trust because they don't understand that what is not serving has to crumble. It has to crumble to help us see where we have attachments. That is the thing, and I've said it a million times because I was told to say it a million times. Every irritation is an invitation. We have to see the ego's motivation. We have to accept that we contributed to the creation of a world that operates in haves and have-nots, in bullies and victims, in hierarchies, in separation, because we signed up to play the 3D game. Nobody to blame. Simple acceptance. Oh, yep, I contributed to that. And when you begin to take responsibility for what you no longer want, you then begin to create the space to hear, what is it that you do want? What do you want? If you sit and ask with sincerity, what do you want that feeds your soul? It will never have anything to do with more money, with a lover, with drugs. It will never have anything to do with that. The soul's what the soul values is very simple: peace, joy, fun, freedom. Freedom at the top of the list. Freedom because it knows that it is created by God with freedom. You want liberty to do what it is that you want. But here's the thing: when you're operating from your soul, your spirit, you never do anything to hurt anybody, because the soul is always operating for the greater good of all. You want freedom to express, you want freedom to create, you want freedom to do whatever it is that feels fun and joyful for you, but it will never hurt anybody else because it comes from a place of love. And everybody who wants freedom to say hateful things, or freedom to get rid of this or get rid of that, it's always based on fear, because they need to control others. You can't be doing what you want to do because that's infringing on my rights. It, it's like we have gotten so off track because we don't understand the truth of who we are. And we don't understand the truth of who we are because we came to a psychoplanet. We were reading that in The Disappearance of the Universe. We're in psychoplanet where nothing is going to make sense until you pull out and observe the insanity and then go, okay, been there, done that. Thank you. No more. So in lesson 186, we are being given information about the importance of stop being so arrogant and think that we already know it all. Get humble and really, God, what would you have me do? That takes courage and takes pride. You need to acknowledge that you deserve to have peace, freedom above anything else. And then it tells us, we ended up in in section, let's see, what there were paragraphs last week. We did 7, 8, 9, where we're connecting to the voice for God. The voice for God inside of us will let us know exactly what it is that we need to do so that we can experience that peace that we're looking for. And guess what? The ego's not going to like it. The ego is going to have a hard time because of one simple little thing. And please listen to this, and I've said it a million times, I'll say it another million times. The need to be right is how you know your ego is involved. When we move into the characteristic of defenselessness, where we don't need to defend our position because we don't need to be right. We don't, and needing to be right is simply needing somebody else to validate what you're saying. But when you no longer need anybody else to validate anything because you're listening to the guidance from within, you don't need to defend it. It's a knowing. It is certain. It is within you. Now you know you're listening to that voice for guidance. That is guiding you, the voice for God. So it tells us how to find peace. It's a function God gave us. So we're learning to accept things that God has given us. And then it lets us know in paragraph number 9, sentence 4, that all the images his son appears to make have no effect on what he is. When we get to the point that we realize this is all a movie reel, all those images that we made, the Pope, the president, even your mother, your boss, your lover, all of those are images that we have made. They have zero power, no effect on who you are. Isn't that liberation? My gosh, I was like, what? I don't have to be afraid of the Pope. I don't have to be afraid of my boss. I had no idea that I didn't have to be afraid of anything. I thought being afraid was like a good thing. It was good that my ego kept me afraid, kept me safe. All of that is an imprisonment into a very small way of thinking. So when you begin to see, I don't need to fear anything, I made it all up, you begin to look at the world very differently. I don't know if you remember this. This was a popular thing, oh, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, when there were a bunch of books out there about how to influence friends and gain people or whatever, however that was the saying went. And it was about people being afraid of being speaking in public. So there was a tip that we were all given, which was when you get up on stage, you look at everybody like they're in their underwear. And I used to think, oh my gosh, that's so funny. But that's how I look at everybody now. They're in their underwear. I see them naked, but not naked as in I see their body parts. I see them naked from the ego. I don't see ego. I see the light that they are, but I can see that light at various levels of shiningness. Either the dimmers turn down in some because they're so scared, they're in terror, they're in worry, or they're operating in total freedom and the light is bright and they're out there shining and doing something, even if they don't know that they're on a spiritual path, they're doing things for the greater good of all. You don't need to know you're on a spiritual path to be on a spiritual path, by the way. As a matter of fact, when we know that we're on a spiritual path, the ego takes that information and gets all spiritualized. Oh, I'm a spiritual path and you're not. That's not loving. But again, I can say it because I've been there, done that. But let's dive into paragraph 10. The unsubstantial images will go. Everything that you've made up in this reel, REEL, is going to go because you're going to decide that you're going to change it. And leave your mind unclouded and serene when you accept the function given you. We need to get humble. We need to accept the function that's been given us. We need to first accept that we are who we are because God created us that way. That we are the way we are, not the color or the gender or any of that stuff, but that we are a beam of light. We are pure love encapsulated in this physicalness. That is what we really are. When you see people naked, meaning you don't see the ego, you don't see the masks, you don't see the pretense, you go to the core of who they are. They are all creators. Everyone is creating. At what level of consciousness they're creating, that's what makes the difference. If they're creating from fear, well, they're going to have an experience of the outside having power over them. If they're creating from love, they have an experience that they're making all this up and they're only going to make something up that is fun and in service to the greater good of all. But all of the images that we have created, the unsubstantial images, they have to go. The government doesn't have power over you. The medical establishment does not have your well-being as something that they can give you. The education system doesn't have your knowledge. The military does not have your safety. All of that comes from your connection with God. We all have to accept our function. We are the ones who actually are bringing all of that to the world. And we're going to show the world how that is done. That safety, that knowledge, that wisdom, that abundance all comes from within. That's how you can be generous. According to the Course in Miracles, that's one of our characteristics. And it's not just generous about money, it's generous about everything. Our wisdom, our ability to help, our compliments, our whatever it is, it all comes from within. Sentence two says, the images you make give rise to but conflicting goals, impermanent and vague, uncertain and ambiguous. How many of us have been chasing, in our career years, chasing this job and that job, and this one was going to be better, and that one was going to be better. Talk about vague and ambiguous and uncertain and conflicting and impermanent. Constantly chasing the next thing. Was it fun? Sure, I had fun chasing all those things. But my gosh, it got exhausting. Always trying to pretend, oh, let me impress them in my interview. I had no idea that I didn't need to impress anybody. I am a child of God. I don't need to come here to impress anybody. But I didn't know that. I couldn't walk in with a confidence of the Christ that is within me because I was walking in with a mask of my ego that said, oh, you're bigger, you're higher than I am. I really need you to give me something. So I'm going to pretend to be really good and show you what I think you need to see me be like so that you will then give me this thing that I need so I can get the money so I can buy all these things that I think make me happy and safe and complete. I mean, talk about what a performance. See, I told you I was a great actress. That's why I deserve an Oscar. Sentence number three. Who could be constant in his efforts or direct his energies and concentrated drive toward goals like this? It's not, you cannot do it consistently for forever. Lifetime after lifetime, it gets exhausting. I mean, how many times do you want to work for 40 years and retire and have 3 years of fun playing golf and die and come back and reincarnate and do that same thing again? I don't know about you. I don't want to keep doing that. I want it to be a lot more exciting than that. So the functions which the world esteems are so uncertain that they change 10 times an hour at their most secure. What hope of gain can rest on goals like this? Look at all these sweet little children born into places where they are sold into slavery, they are utilized for human trafficking, they are uh, sold into pedophilic rings where people abuse them. Isn't that crazy that in this world we don't take care of little children? We don't protect the innocence of another? Well, the reason we can't do that is because our own innocence has been defiled. To me, the rampant projection of abuse of children out there is because we have abused our inner child. We have not accepted the innocence that we are. Therefore, we don't protect the innocence that they are. This is part of the salvation of the world that depends on me. We have to get clear that there are things that happen in this world because we have been trained into believing things that are not true. And when people believe that it's okay to sacrifice a child, they have no concept of the divinity in that being. Now, again, it's a movie reel. It's all happening in pure imagination. So the course is really clear. Let's not focus on that thing out there and make it real, R-E-A-L. Let's come in here and change the real, R-E-E-L, that we're projecting. When we begin to value innocence in here, we will be very clear that we're not going to support and participate in things out there that are not honoring the children of God. This is why in the Bible, so yes, you will find good messages in the Bible. There's a lot of truth in there. Why? Because God was always speaking. There was always information. Jesus gave us great information. When we abuse those little children, there's going to be a price to pay. And humanity in its 3D form is about to encounter some massive things that are coming to show us that we have not been loving on ourselves. Therefore, we don't love on one another. Jesus gave us one commandment. He kind of gave us a combination, but really it boiled down to one thing. Love your neighbor as yourself. And you can only love your neighbor as yourself because you have learned to love yourself first you have to love yourself. And the only way you can love yourself is because you came to know that God is in you and God is love. So once you accept God within you and you are living from that place, you cannot help but love your neighbor as yourself. This whole world is going to be so different for those who are choosing the path of 5D, which is the path of acknowledging that we are our brothers and sisters keepers. Salvation of the world depends on me. And that means that we will be operating in a level of integrity that does not in any way, shape, or form allows for anything to happen in this world that is not loving. Not because we become the police of that, but because we align with those who do the same thing. And therefore, we're going to experience a world, when you move up to that next level, the next 26,000 year run for those who align with love is going to be a world where there's going to be freedom for everybody to, the kids to roam again. Nobody is going to do anything that is going to hurt anybody else because they will know that if they hurt another, they are hurting themselves. Because that hurt to another comes from hurt within. That is not going to be part of that reality. It will be part of the 3D reality where people still operate inside of that low frequency. But here, the Course is telling us who can have hope to gain any rest in a world that is run by the ego. That's why we want to stop operating from the ego so we can have an experience that is not egoically based. Paragraph 11 tells us, in lovely contrast, certain as the sun's return each morning to dispel the night, your truly given function stands out clear and wholly unambiguous. There is no doubt of its validity. It comes from one who knows no error, and his voice is certain of its messages. They will not change nor be in conflict. All of them point to one goal and one you can attain. Your plan may be impossible, but God's can never fail because He is its source. We just had David yesterday was telling us we got to give up our plans. Our human plans are going to fail because they're temporary, they're unambiguous, they're uncertain. They're always chasing something that always leaves you feeling bad about yourself. But God's plans, on the other hand, they cannot fail because He is the source of those plans. And what is God's plan? That we have joy, that we have fun, that we have peace. So we've got to start aligning our thinking with God so we can experience that happy dream and that become the reality for those who want that level of experience. If you're done with this experience where the ego runs the show, then you need to stand in front of that list and make a decision. Am I gonna listen to love or fear? Who's my daddy? Love or fear? Very simple question, very simple answer. And the answer is only found when you override your ego. You decide, I'm not listening to this voice that keeps getting me in trouble. So we have to decide, are we worth it? Do we deserve love? Do we deserve the love of the Father, Mother, God? When you believe that you deserve it, you will do everything in your power to live these words as if they are the truth of who you are because they are. And that is cultivating trust. Once your trust is in that, the truth is coming from within. Your source of peace, of joy, of happiness, of confidence, of security is coming from within. You will stop looking outside of yourself. And when you find that within, then you activate one of the other characteristics, which is faithfulness. You'll be faithful to only one voice, but you can't be faithful to the one voice until you start trusting that voice. And you won't trust that voice until you begin to experience the changes in your life. And those changes will feel like more joy. They'll feel like more gentleness. You'll feel more peaceful, more calm. You'll feel a certainty that money cannot buy. All of these things are there waiting for whoever wants to accept them. That's what's amazing about them. We're just accepting what was already given to us. It's like God gave it to us, and we said, well, I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to go over here and look for it outside of me. And then we realize, okay, there's no satisfaction in this. No matter how much I have, I'm never happy. Have you noticed that, there's not the one number That if there was like, if you became if you gained 1 million, you'd be happy, or you gain 10 million and you get 10 million and 20 million, and then 20 is not enough, and you want 30, and you want 1 billion, you want 1 trillion. How much do you need to accumulate to be happy? Well, we can see in the world that so many of the ones with a lot of money are the ones who do the least for humanity. And they cannot do more for humanity because they are so empty inside that they just got to keep accumulating and acquiring, regardless of who that hurts, because they're hurting inside. That's not going to be part of the happy dream. The happy dream is you don't need to have more than what you need. And abundance will be, I have what I need when I need it, period. Hoarding and accumulating, those things are not going to even be part of our reality. But until we get there, we're working through what we've got and seeing where we have attachment so we can begin the process of letting go, coming back within. So God's plan is not going to fail. It is impossible that it is going to fail. And it is a lovely contrast indeed. Peace is a lovely contrast to anxiety. Love is a lovely contrast to fear. Honesty is a lovely contrast to all the lies that we tell when we let the ego run our lives. I'm going to just end with this one line, and this is the first line in paragraph 14. So I'm sorry, I said 14, paragraph 12. So next week we'll do 12, 13, 14 and complete this lesson. But today, let's just go with this one line. Do as God's voice directs. Simple. When we make the decision to do as God's voice directs, it is only going to lead us to more joy, more happiness. Why? Because that's what God said He wanted for us. See, when you accept that you were made for joy, for love, for peace, for freedom, you then have to cultivate the trust that that is true. So to cultivate the trust that God did create you for more happiness and more joy and more freedom, you've got to look at where you don't trust that that is so. You got to look at the beliefs that you've been indoctrinated with that make you fear God. I never would have wanted to listen to what God had to say because I was afraid of God. Why would I listen to somebody who I'm afraid of? To me, God was no different than my unapproachable father. I grew up with an unapproachable father. Then I went to the church who told me about the father and listened to the father and bowed to the father and blah, blah, blah. My little child's mind, through association, the word father, I want nothing to do with another father that did the same thing that my human father did to me. So when I got into A Course in Miracles and I began to read this father thing, my gosh, father's here again. I had to recognize, am I going to trust these teachings because I'm trusting the voice for Jesus that's been guiding me to do so many things that I already trusted and had followed and had led me to some amazing experiences? Was I going to trust that voice of Jesus, that the Course in Miracles was a whole different situation, was a whole different father than what I knew before? I had to have enough pride in myself. I had to say, I deserve that. I deserve a loving father. I deserve to have everything good. I am that amazing. I am that magnificent. I am that worthy. And when in humbleness, I accepted that I deserve nothing but the best. The Course in Miracles, it just began to open up for me. The thing about Father gave me the opportunity to have so much healing with my own father. I realized my father was created by the same father that I'm now realizing is an amazing father. So how did this amazing father create this father who was not so amazing? And then I had to recognize, oh, just like me, he descended. He came in from the highest frequency also. He got an ego. He believed he wasn't good enough. He believed he needed somebody else to make him happy. He believed he wasn't measuring up. He believed he wasn't providing enough. And inside of all of that lack of self-worth, what else could he do but turn to the bottle? What else could he do? He was doing the best that he could for himself. The bottle, the drinking numbed his pain. So for a few hours a night, when he was drunk in the living room and we couldn't go approach dad because we didn't want to, wake the angry bear. for a few hours a night. Alcohol blocked all of that insanity in his mind. And what as a child I saw as my dad, doesn't love me, doesn't want me. He's so mean. He's so blah, blah, blah. He loves the bottle more than he loves anybody else. What I saw from a kid's perspective, very influenced by my mother, by the way, and all of that I saw was feeding my ego to help me feel separate from my father, to help me judge my father as not as good as I was. I was superior. I was better. I didn't drink. And of course, my whole life, then I was never going to be a drunk. So I never became a drunk. I think I got drunk one time in my life and it was like enough. No, I'm not going to do that again. So I never drank more than one drink and only drank margaritas because I liked the taste, but not because I wanted to get drunk. Then I start meeting this loving father and I find out what? We all start at the top. We all start perfect and complete. Then I had to see that my father, inside of this 3D world, where there is no real teachings to bring us to truth. Yes, Jesus gave us some, but that was corrupted in the Bible. And that's why Jesus had to come back. I mean, sweet Jesus, he had to come back and give us more information. Of course, he didn't have to take on a body again, but he gives us this information through the Course in Miracles that I know if my dad read it, he would have loved it. But here's the thing. As an adult who came to understand the love of the Father for me, I began to have love for my father because I began to forgive what he did. He didn't know what he was doing. Drinking was the best that he could do to give himself a little tiny bit of peace during his day. The bottle gave him what he was looking for, but it wasn't sustainable. It was all temporary. The world of the ego is a world of temporary things. They come and they go. They disappear. That's why I'm tired of this world, because you're constantly chasing. You got to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. That's exhausting. I want to do it one and be done. And that's what I'm experiencing with my decision to accept God's voice as what directs me. That one decision that I'm only going to listen to what the Father says, the Mother, Father, Mother, God, whatever you want to call it, Creator, Source, Spirit, trusting. That has been the journey, learning to trust that I matter, that I am worthy, and God did not create me to suffer. God gave me the ability to create suffering only when I turn my back on God. And to cultivate a relationship with God, to learn to trust God, to learn to have faith in what God says, that's the work. That is the work. Sort out what is ego, sort out what is God. But we are not going to be able to move into experiencing heaven on earth, the happy dream, until you listen to the voice that wants only happiness for you. Do you realize that the ego only wants misery for you? And yet we keep listening to that voice. But we listen to that voice because it's the one that we have, it's the one that we know. It's the one that we're more familiar with. It's the loudest one in our head. So we listen to that one the most. That's normal, but it's not natural. What is natural is to come to the quiet place within. And when you come inside and you start listening to God, it's going to tell you to do things that the world is not going to like, because it's going to tell you to unplug from the matrix. Don't participate in those things. Don't buy from companies that do things that are greedy. Don't participate in organizations that fund pedophilia. Participate in things like that. Don't participate in a system that keeps people sick for profit. You have to unplug. There is no way for you to do the things that help create a happy dream while you are participating in low frequency things. You have to align with that which is for the greater good of all. And anything that does not do things that are loving, you must look at and say, not funding you anymore. In the 3D world, everything operates on money. That's designed that way. But when you move into a higher frequency, it's not about the money. The generosity is not just about the money. It becomes about the recognition of the power that we have to create. If you're the director of your movie reel, you're not going to experience poverty because you know that abundance is your birthright. So you're going to create from a place of abundance, but abundance has to change its definition, which is you'll have what you need when you need it. If you're hungry, you're going to have the food. If you need housing, it's going to happen. But it's going to be a whole different way than how we've been doing it here. The mind it's hard to imagine that kind of a world where instead of filling the roads, have you ever wondered why when the highways are being built or the subdivisions are being built, we put trees that don't produce fruit? Can you imagine that instead of planting all these trees that just drop leaves and do nothing else but that we planted fruit? There would be no hunger in the world if fruit was everywhere. Why is the fruit only planted in an area where those people decide that this is my land and this is my fruit and I get to sell it to you? God created the fruit. God creates everything that is abundant. Why do we not share that? Why do we do it that way? Well, yes, we can come up with all kinds of rational ideas about the land and who owns it and who farms it and who provides it and who brings it to the groceries. That's all well and good. In a mindset that operates in separation, that's all well and good. But in the mindset that is going to move towards the collective consciousness, recognizing that the salvation of the world depends on me, we're going to do things very differently. There is no need. There's absolutely zero need for greed, for selfishness, when grace and abundance are our birthright. These are exciting times to be alive. And I know that it's only going to get uglier before it gets better because this world, there's a lot of people asleep and it's going to take something more shocking than what we've already had. You would think that what we've had hasn't, it has been, should have been shocking enough, but it hasn't been. It's going to have to get just a lot darker. If you have the Holy Spirit as your direct connection, you're going to be okay because you are the light of the world. And while things get darker, your light is only going to shine brighter. And then as you shine brighter, you become that light that will be the beacon that will attract others to say, hey, how are you so peaceful in the middle of this insanity? And you will let them know, I made a decision. I decided to do as God was directing me. So simple. That's it. I have nothing else. I love you all so much. I will see a bunch of you all later in various different things or tomorrow or whenever. And remember, tomorrow I'll be back in Denver as my adventure with my teeth continues. So tomorrow morning we won't have the practical spirituality and 5D class for those in the mastery program. But I'll be back for the 10 characteristics of a teacher of God. So that will be tomorrow. I love you all so much. If anybody wants to share anything, unmute yourselves. Otherwise, thank you for the present that your presence is to me. All right. I love you all. Bye bye.